So then I'll come home around 5 p.m. From 5:30 to 7, I'll take a nap. Then from 7 p.m. to midnight, I would just study every single day on the weekdays. And then on the weekends, I'll do the same thing, but I'll also go volunteer in a hospital and I'll also go shadow doctors to kind of build my application. And I pretty much did that for 18 months straight. I did not take a single day off.
Welcome to the Military Money Manual Podcast, where every episode is all about achieving financial independence in the military faster than before. We believe personal finance shouldn't be boring or intimidating. Building wealth can be simple, and financial freedom is the ultimate financial goal. Now, here's your hosts, Spencer and Jamie.
Pritish, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast.
Thanks for having me. It's really great to be here. I'm a huge fan of this show, and a big shout out to my friend Keith. He's also a big fan, and he's also happy that I'm here.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome, listeners. Welcome, Keith. Pritish, you've had one of the most interesting military career progressions that I've heard about. National Guard, engineer officer, active duty, and now an Army doctor. Can you take us through how that all came about? I mean, maybe we just go back to the beginning. And as I talked about in your biography, you're an immigrant to America. Mm-hmm. And I love those, land of opportunity stories.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I was born in India. I grew up there till age 11. I was born in New Delhi, but I grew up in East India in a state called Odisha. Came to America when I was 11 and moved to East Brunswick, New Jersey. And I was there till age 18 or so. And growing up, I had a pretty typical childhood. My parents, they were big into academics like any Indian household. My mom was a software engineer and my dad is a scientist. They were big into doing well in school and getting good grades. But for whatever reason, I wasn't into that. I was more into martial arts and bodybuilding and doing sports. And for whatever reason, I always had a obsessive fascination with military, even when I was in India. No reason why. I have nobody in the family that's in the military, but I just loved the military growing up. I knew that was something that I wanted to do when I became an adult. Then fast forward, high school, I was very good at math and physics for whatever reason. Those are the only two subjects I was actually good at and I enjoyed doing. So naturally decided to do mechanical engineering. When I was in college, did Army ROTC because I wanted to kind of follow my military passion there. And also I enlisted in the New Jersey Army National Guard. And then after college, I commissioned as an engineer officer to active duty. Got stationed at Fort Leonard Wood for the initial BOLC training, which is a basic officer leader course for engineers. Then got stationed at Schofield Barracks in Hawaii. Was there as a sapper platoon leader for 2 years. Then went to Fort Hood, or now Fort Cavazos, Texas. Went there as a field/project engineer for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Stayed there for about 18 months and then went to Missouri, Fort Leonard Wood, to be a staff officer. When I was doing all my engineering roles there, I knew I liked engineering, but the kind of engineering that I wanted to do, you would have to get a PhD for that. And I didn't have the patience to take that long road to get a PhD. And around the same time, I kind of wanted to have an exit plan out of the military. So the alternative to the PhD I was thinking about was getting to MBA, which is a pretty common route for a lot of military officers. And that's what I was going to do. But I have some cousins that are in Wall Street. When I was talking to them just to really seek guidance, they kind of encouraged me to maybe look at medicine instead. And they were telling me, they're about 20 years older than me. And they were telling me that if they were to go back and do things differently, they would do medicine. So I was kind of hearing that from them. Also, at the same time, when I was at my field exercises for the military, especially in Fort Polk, Louisiana, I saw what Army doctors do in the field and the skill set that they have, and I really liked it. And it was really fascinating to me that the things that they're doing in the military, it translates really well to the civilian world also. So they already have the exit plan built into their career in the military, which is not necessarily true for me as an Army engineer. I kind of was interested in medicine, but I wasn't too sure. I was a little scared because I don't have a pre-med background whatsoever. Then I had a buddy who I did mechanical engineering with in Rutgers in college. He was in the Navy. He was a submarine warfare officer. He made that pivot to medicine, and he told me about this program called HPSP, which I had never heard about before. He also told me about USUHS, which is a military medical school in Bethesda. So I heard about these things. Then I kind of talked to some doctors in my unit, and they also encouraged me. After that, I kind of started studying from the MCAT, took all my prereqs, applied when I was in Missouri, got in, went to medical school, finished 4 years of that. And now I'm about to finish my first year of residency in internal medicine at Interpreter Army Medical Center in Hawaii.
That's quite the adventure there. I mean, it seems
Yeah.
like you're always trying to maximize like every opportunity that's handed to you. Yeah, I respect that. So good on you for not just letting life happen to you, but really making things happen. I want to
Right.
double click on the program you mentioned there, HPSP. What does that stand
Yeah.
for, and how does that work?
So it stands for Health Profession Scholarship Program. Essentially, you can think of it as the ROTC in a way of medical school. Essentially, they'll pay 4 years of medical school. So they'll pay for the tuition, the books, all the fees that the medical school would charge you to the student. They'll pay for all of that. On top of that, they'll give you a $20,000 bonus as a sign-up bonus. They'll also give you a stipend of about $2,800 a month now, every month. And then in return, you owe them 4 years as an attending physician. To be specific, it is attending physician years that count for the obligation payback and not the residency years. And after that, you're done. You can stay longer or you can get out of the military.
And then residency is going to depend on what kind of medicine you're practicing, right? So, I mean, let's just use your example. So, how old were you when you applied for HPSP?
I applied to HPSP at age 26. It's a year before you matriculate into medical school. So I started medical school when I was age 27. So I applied in 26 and then I got in also within 2 months after applying. And then I started using it in the beginning of medical school.
Okay, so you applied when you were 26, started when you were 27, graduated at 31. You're in your first year of residency now. You have how many more years of residency?
I have 2 more years left.
2 more years left, and then you have a 4-year commitment as an attending on top of that.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Does the time in medical school count towards time in service for a 20-year military retirement?
Not for the active duty retirement, but if you were to join the reserves or the National Guard, then they will give you this 4 years for retirement. For active duty, no.
So you're in I assume the inactive ready reserve or something, IRR?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
With IRR, went in medical school.
Let's talk about the monetary side of this. So you said that there's a stipend, there's a bonus coming. I talked to a student recently who was getting paid as a second lieutenant. Where does that fit into that pay schedule? Is that only if you go to the school in Bethesda?
Yes and no. If you go to USUHS, which is the Uniformed Services University of Health Sciences, USUHS in Bethesda, Maryland, that's a military medical school for Army, Navy, Air Force. So there, you're in active duty the whole 4 years of medical school. And you're getting paid as a second lieutenant the whole time. Unless you're para service, then you were the rank of second lieutenant, but you get paid as your last senior rank. And that's called safe pay. So that is USUHS. If you're in HPSP, when you're in the academic year, you're just getting the stipend. So I was getting paid $2,500 and now it is $2,800 a month. But in the summer months, so about a month and a half in the summer, you have to attend something called ADT, active duty training. And those month and a half, you're a second lieutenant or you're a second lieutenant the whole time, but you're getting paid as a second lieutenant active duty for a month and a half. So you are a second lieutenant the whole 4 years of medical school, whether you're in HPSP or USUHS, but in USUHS, you're in active duty the entire time.
And sorry, I'm just getting super technical here, but so were you a captain by the time you went? So did you get to hold your rank?
Since I did HPSP at a civilian school, I was a captain before I started medical school. So during my ADTs, while I was in medical school, I would have to wear the second lieutenant rank because my title was a medical student, but I was getting paid as a captain.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I know majors and lieutenant colonels who are getting paid as majors and lieutenant colonels, but they would wear the second lieutenant rank because they're a medical student now.
I mean, honestly, having been a second lieutenant and having been a major, I think I'd much rather have the major paycheck and the second lieutenant responsibility. So that sounds pretty good to me. That actually might be the best hack in the military right there. All right. All right. So the total value of the education benefits you received, I mean, it must have been extraordinary, like into the six figures, depending on which university you'd go to, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think all in all, including undergraduate and medical school, I think I've received close to $700,000 worth of education benefits. Yeah. And I would say 450K or so was for medical school because medical school is very expensive, unfortunately, in America. I went to a Touro University in New York City, and it's very
Nice.
expensive. Each year, their estimated cost to attend Touro is about 100 to 120K. I didn't have to pay any of that. The Army covered all of that. And then on top of that, they also gave me the stipend and or salary to attend medical school.
Okay, this sounds like, I mean, if you're interested in medicine, this sounds like, and you're interested in military service, this sounds like one of the best deals out there. But talk to me about like challenges or restrictions. So like you said you weren't pre-med. How did you approach, did you have to take an MCAT before you applied? Like what was the application process like?
Yeah, absolutely. So let me kind of like expound on that actually. So most people that apply to HPSP or USUHS, they are pre-meds. They went to undergraduate for biochemistry or biology or organic chemistry, those kind of stuff. So they've already taken all the prerequisite courses to attend medical school. And there's a whole list of them. It's like biology, general chemistry, organic chemistry, calculus, physics, and so on and so forth. So you have to take those to attend medical school. Also, you have to take the MCAT along with all the volunteering hours, the clinical hours. And so you got to have a good resume and a good packet to apply to medical school. I was kind of non-traditional since I did mechanical engineering. So I had some of the prereqs done, like the physics, the calculus, the general chemistry, but the other stuff like the biochemistry, the humanities, the organic chemistry, I didn't have those done. I decided I wanted to do medicine while I was in active duty. So my choices were that I either leave service completely and take a gap year for 1 year or two and take all the remaining prereqs, study for MCAT, also volunteer, do all the shadowing and everything to build my application and then apply, or I can do it while I was in active duty. I chose the latter. I chose the harder option. So when I was in Texas, fortunately, my job was not too time consuming. So I was pretty much home by 5 p.m. or so. So then I'll come home around 5 p.m. From 5:30 to 7, I'll take a nap. Then from 7 p.m. to midnight, I would just study every single day on the weekdays. And then on the weekends, I'll do the same thing, but I'll also go volunteer in a hospital and I'll also go shadow doctors to kind of build my application. And I pretty much did that for 18 months straight. I did not take a single day off. And then that's how I kind of like really jumped many years. And within 18 months, I had an application ready to apply to medical school.
Wow. Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, that's extremely good planning, foresight, effort, hard work. Were you married at the time?
No, at the time I was single. If I was married, there's no way I could have done that.
I was going to say, and no kids, I assume either.
No kids.
Yeah.
Just me. Yeah.
Way to, capitalize on the opportunity. So, okay.
Yes.
That's amazing though. Color me impressed. So let's keep deep diving on the money side of things. So One thing you mentioned in your email to me was there are so many special pays, incentive pays, retention pays specific to military medicine that even people who are in military medicine don't understand. So let's break it down. So talk to me about what does your LES look like, or what does, once you graduate or once you're done with your residency and you're attending, what does a military medicine LES look like?
First of all, let me kind of talk about the residency itself, and now talk about the attending. Military residency is unique in the sense that, yes, you're a resident physician, but you're getting paid as a military officer. So you're getting paid as a captain. So as soon as you graduate from medical school, you're a captain. While in residency, you're getting paid as a captain in active duty. So you're getting the base pay, the BAS, BAH, COLA, and then some other incentive pays also, which I'll go over right now. So that's number one thing, that you are a military officer first, a resident physician second. In your residency, you have something called the Medical Corps Incentive Pays. So in your first year of residency, you get an additional $1,200 per year. So that comes to about $100 a month. Not much, but that's just your first year of residency on top of the base pay, BAS, BAH, COLA, what have you. After you're done with your first year of residency, then you get $8,000 extra every year of residency on top of everything else. Once you're done with residency itself, then you get your specialty pay based on your specialty. So I'm internal medicine. On top of everything else, I'll get $43,000 extra each year. And then once I take my board exam, so my internal medicine board exam, and if I pass it, then you get board certified, then that's an additional $8,000. And then, so just to kind of give you some numbers. So for me, being prior service, after residency, I'll make roughly $230,000 during my obligation years. So I will owe 4 years as an attending internal medicine physician. Once your obligation is done, then you can sign up for something called retention bonus. And then the retention bonus is dependent on your specialty and how long you sign up for the obligation. Yeah. For example, for internal medicine, I think it's about $40,000 for a 6-year contract after your obligation. So that adds on another $50K extra on top of the board certification pay and also the specialty pay. So you can make close to $280 to $300K once your obligation is up if you add up all those numbers. Also on top of that, depending on your command, you can moonlight. And in fact, they sometimes encourage you to moonlight because in the military, often you don't always use your skill set. And if you don't use it, you have skill atrophy. So the command encourages you to sometimes go moonlight so that you don't have the skill atrophy and you can be a competent physician and you can actually execute your task when the need be. So it kind of works out because you're not losing your skills. You're also getting some extra pay. And also it's good for the union mission because you're actually competent at your job. You can get close to even $350K sometimes. Depends on how much you moonlight. So just to kind of recap, so in your first year of residency, on top of all the regular military officer pay, you get $1,200 for the whole year. After your first year of residency, you get an additional $8,000 every year of residency. After you're done with residency, you'll get your specialty incentive pay. And that depends on your specialty. For internal medicine, it is $43K. For neurosurgery, it is $65K per year. Okay. And you'll get that every single year. And then if you get board certified in your specialty, you'll get $8,000 on top of that every year. And then after your obligation is done, then you can sign up for, if you want to, for retention bonus, but then that just increases your ADSO or your obligation year. And that depends on how long you sign up for and what specialty you're in.
And comparing that to a civilian, would they be getting paid equivalent to what a military officer is making when they're in residency?
Incorrect, no. The residents in the civilian world, depending on the institution and the location, but on average, they make about 50 to 60K, about 60K, wow. Let's say. Yeah.
Okay. So residents, these aren't the $1 million doctor salaries that we're used to hearing about.
Definitely not. Yeah.
Okay.
When you're a resident physician, because you're still in training, yes, you're a doctor, but you're still in training, you don't get paid like attending. But after you're done with residency and your training, then the income does go up significantly. So there's light at the end of the tunnel. So
the primary monetary mechanism that the military uses to retain doctors is the retention bonus that you can sign if you want to. But I assume that you could also just be a free agent and then, or do you have to commit for like at least a year for your ADSO?
So after the obligation is done, you could just stay in the military and just kind of play it by ear if you want to stay or not. You don't have to sign up for the bonus. But most of them, they either want to stay in for the 20 and get the retention bonus, or they just get out. But the retention bonus, they have a different structure. You could do as little as 2 years, and you could do as high as 6 years. So just really depends what you want to do. Yeah.
So the retention bonus plus the specialty incentive pay, that could be substantial. That could be well over $100,000 of pay. And is that paid in lump sum, or does it come at you with every paycheck?
So for the incentive pay, that is monthly installments. But the retention bonus after your obligation, that is a lump sum payment. Also, one thing I want to add, which I didn't know about until 3-4 months ago, oftentimes people do a fellowship after residency, meaning that, so let's say I am doing internal medicine right now, and I want to go into cardiology. So I'm subspecializing. So after internal medicine, cardiology will be an additional 3 years of fellowship. In the civilian world, yes, you're done with residency, but now you're in fellowship, you're still a trainee. Your pay increases very slightly. Instead of 60K, maybe you'll make like 75K. But in the military, once you're done with residency, you get attending pay, meaning that you could be in fellowship, still in training, but you're getting paid as an attending. You could be getting paid 200 to 50K in a fellowship, whereas in a civilian world, you get paid maybe 70, 80K.
I mean, massive opportunity there for the doctor who wants to continue to upgrade their career, where you're continuing to serve, you're logging time, you're getting paid, you're getting your fellowship, you're subspecializing. And if you're going to do 20 years anyways, then you might as well just, I mean, you not might as well, maybe you're happy doing, internal medicine.
Right.
But if you wanted to be a cardiologist, man, what an amazing pathway to, especially if you enjoy serving in the military. If you don't enjoy serving in the military, maybe you want to look at other options. But at least from what I remember on active duty, it didn't seem like the life of military medicine was as hard as some bosses, and it's harder than some, but easier than others. And if you're enjoying it, then man, what a golden opportunity.
I agree. I think just like you said, you have to first want to be in the military and only then look at the financial incentives. Since you are still a military officer, you still have to take your PT test every 6 months. You still have to go do your drug test. You still have to have the grooming standards. You can't forget that you're still in the military.
That's one thing that I just do not miss at all, is that drug test. Not that I've experimented at all since I got out, but it's just one of those things that's like, you trust me to fly a $300 million aircraft, and you don't trust me not to use marijuana. Are there critical specialty pays? Like, if there's a specialty that there's a very strong need from, would that be an additional bonus, or would they just crank up the incentive pay for that specialty?
I'm not too familiar with all the technicalities there because I'm not attending yet. But from my understanding, that is for attendings in the civilian world that want to join the military now. They're not in the military now, but they're attendings in a civilian hospital, and now they want to join the military as attending. So the way that works, from my understanding, is that, let's say it's a neurosurgeon attending at Johns Hopkins. They want to serve as a neurosurgeon in the military. There may be a critical wartime bonus for 600K, which gets paid to them, I believe, in lump sum. And then they commission as like a colonel or something. And then they'll just get paid as a colonel with less than 2 years of service, most likely. Or maybe they'll adjust with the constructive credit. They'll then get the incentive pay and all the regular military officer pay on top of that.
Gotcha. Okay. That's not a very common path. And that would be for someone who's coming in having already done all the schoolwork.
Correct. Yeah. I haven't met anybody that's done that, but there's some, I'm sure. Yeah.
Any misconceptions you see out there about military medicine? I mean, you seem very excited to be practicing, and, sometimes on different forums online, you might see, more of a negative attitude towards military medicine. But is there anything that you'd like, any rumors you'd like to dispel, or?
Yeah, absolutely. The biggest misconception that I see online is that people complain that the money structure in the military is just not worth doing it. And there's some truth to it. But I think what they're doing is that they're just looking at the attending pay differences. So they're just comparing the numbers of a civilian attending in some specialty versus a military attending of that same specialty. Yes, it is going to be lower in the military than in the civilian world. But what you cannot forget is that you can look at the aggregate amount that you have received in your whole military journey up to that attending hood. So the fact that you got paid a salary when you were in medical school, and the fact that you have no debt, zero, the fact that while you were in medical school, you had the opportunity to also invest, which can grow exponentially. And also the fact that in residency, you're getting paid sometimes double to 3 times what you would make in the civilian world and a civilian residency. So you have to look at all that as an aggregate and then compare, okay, am I actually at a huge loss if I do military medicine in terms of the financial aspect? But if you just look at numbers at the end, then yes, you'll make less. But as a whole, you end up coming up about the same. Again, depending on the specialty though.
Yeah, I think that's something that a lot of people They just look at the final numbers and they don't take into account all the things that went into it. And I see the same mistake made when people are, looking at, for instance, we just had this episode about 529s versus investing in taxable brokerage, and people they make, small mistakes where they apply the tax rate to the capital gains tax rate to the entire amount, not just the gain. So, your contributions are never taxed. And it's just those kind of mental errors. It doesn't matter whether you're talking about 529 plans or brokerages or military medicine versus civilian pay. If you make those small errors in the beginning, all of a sudden it starts to compound over time. And you're like, oh, there's no way that, I'd go into military medicine.
Yeah.
But like you said, well, you're graduating with no debt, you're getting paid, which means you can start investing earlier, which means if you're doing it right, you might actually be way ahead of your civilian counterparts. And, oh, by the way, life is more than just what you get paid. If you have a strong desire and urge like you did to go serve in the military, then you can't replace that, sense of purpose and meaning with a civilian career if you're called to military service. So that's a great misconception. Thank you for clearing that up.
There's one more thing also. So if you do the military route also, you'll be comfortable the entire journey versus sometimes in the civilian journey, you'll be kind of strapping for cash, especially when you're in medical school and also in residency. If you have plans to have a family while you're in medical school or in residency, or if you're planning to get married around this time, it's much more doable and much more comfortable to do that while in military medicine, which I did. So that's also another thing to think about.
I think that's something that people might tend to discount is when you're a medical student and you're taking on debt and you're living on ramen noodles because you're trying to keep your costs as low as possible. That quality of life does have an impact on you. Whereas
Absolutely.
if you're getting paid a stipend or you're getting paid as a second lieutenant, you can live a more relaxed lifestyle, which might actually make you a better student and allow you to perform better during your education. So yeah, that's something that people miss when they just look at the final dollar amounts.
I do want to talk about specifically for prior service folks that want to do medicine. If you have GI Bill, you can get some benefits out of that while in medical school. Specifically, if you do HPSP and 911 GI Bill, you can get the BAH from the GI Bill because HPSP is going to pay the tuition. So GI Bill is not going to pay the tuition because it's already paid off, but they'll give you as a beneficiary the BAH. So for me, I used my GI Bill for all 4 years of medical school. I was getting my stipend. So for me, it was about $2,500 a month. And then because I was in New York, my BAH was about $4,200, $4,400, something around that. You add the month and a half of active duty pay. My first year as a medical student, I was making $90K. And then my second, third, and fourth year, I was making roughly about $70K. That's because I didn't get the tourniquet bonus the second, third, and fourth years. It's only for the first year. So I was pretty comfortable. And then on top of that, if you want, you can also take federal student loans if you want. You don't have to. So let's say you have a family and you just need some extra cash to be more comfortable. You can do that. And then from what I hear, again, like I've not tried this, from what I hear, if you do have student loans because of undergraduate or medical school, because you are in military service after medical school, those years they account for the SAFE plan or the PSLF. I know now it's litigation, but theoretically, those years in the military that you have to serve anyways because you have obligation, that will count towards the loan repayment. It's another added benefit that no one really talks about, but is there that you can take student loans out and your military will count for PSLF.
So many options there to think about, so many different avenues, paths you can take to. So when the stipend you were receiving from the HPSP scholarship, that would have been tax-free. Is that correct?
Stipend was not tax-free.
But your BAH that you got from the GI Bill would have been.
Yes. Yeah. BAH, that was tax-free. But from what I recall, I was getting $2,500 a month for 10 and a half months. So that comes to, I don't know, $40K, I think? Yes. Something around that. After you do all the tax deductions and the credits and everything, it was very little tax that you're really paying at the end. So pretty negligible.
Just a quick note from one of our sponsors, and then we'll be right back to the show.
It's no secret Spencer and I are both huge fans of the Thrift Saving Plan, the military's version of the 401k retirement plan. We've both been investing in the TSP for over 14 years and are thrilled to announce we've consolidated all the information you need to know into a new course called the Confident TSP Investing Course.
That's right. The course is a comprehensive guide to navigating the TSP, breaking it down to easy, bite-sized chunks that lay out the basics of the thrift savings plan, the funds available, and the investing strategies so you can build wealth while you serve.
We both know what it's like to be a beginner and to be overwhelmed with all the information that's out there about investing in the TSP. Head over to militarymoneymanual.com/TSP, Tango Sierra Papa, to find our simple breakdown of all you need to know. You get lifetime access, and we'll have a growing library of content. And one of my favorite parts about the course is that for every course we sell, we're going to be donating one to an E4 or below.
Yeah, I love that feature of the course, Jamie. So if you're an officer, an NCO, a senior NCO out there, and you purchase a course, first of all, thank you. And also know that you're helping a fellow service member, a sailor, a soldier, a Marine, an airman, a guardian, a Coast Guardsman, E4 or below, take one step closer to their financial success.
The link's in the show notes, or head over to militarymoneymanual.com/TSP, where you can sign up for the Confident TSP Investing course. Now, back to the show.
So one of the things you emailed me was that you got the right mentorship when you were a young second lieutenant. Can you tell us about that mentor and then what specific advice they gave you that changed your financial trajectory?
Sure. So this is my platoon sergeant first class, Mario Puente. Well, he was a sergeant first class back then. Now he's a master sergeant retired. I don't know how it works with the Air Force, but in the Army, as an officer, you always have a NCO counterpart. You are a team. As a young lieutenant, one of your first jobs is a platoon leader, where you're in charge of about 40 soldiers, and then your partner is a platoon sergeant, and that's usually a E7, a sergeant first class. My platoon sergeant was sergeant first class Mario Puente. I met him here in Hawaii at Schofield Barracks. So this man, he is extremely smart. He did not go to college, but his financial savviness is amazing. So I met him when he was maybe 32, 34, and he was a millionaire by the late 20s, like by the time he was like 27, 28. He used real estate to do it. So when I met him, I was 22. I was super gung-ho. I was like all about Army. Yes, I want to go run 20 miles, jump out of planes, go be in the jungle. That was my whole world. He loved that about me. But he also realized that there's a lot of like real world things that I don't know that someone should teach me. So one day, it was around like 17:30, like after work day. I think it was tax season. We're kind of talking about taxes because I think I used to do it in college, but this was the first time I actually have like the adult money to do like real taxes now. So he wanted to kind of teach me about it because I didn't know what a deduction was or a tax credit was, those kind of stuff. And he pretty much just kind of drew it out on a whiteboard. And he made it so simple. And I'm like, man, like all these words, they sound so scary. But when you explain it on a whiteboard, it's really simple and it's very elementary. And he's like, yeah, honestly, money and finances is very simple if you want to make it to be very simple. But it just looks scary from the outside. So then I started picking his brain. And then I realized that this guy's a millionaire in hiding. He told me like the stuff that he knows and how he did it with real estate. I kind of caught the bug. I got really inspired and I started reading books. I started reading all kinds of books. First book that I read was Money Master the Game by Tony Robbins. That was a mammoth of a book. I think it's like 700 pages, but I learned a lot from that. I read Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey. Then Think Rich. I forgot the author's name, but I just read like maybe 20 books in that year. And we just had a lot of conversations back and forth. And he told me everything that he did. But he said that this is not the only way to gain wealth. You'll find your own way, whichever way makes sense to you, and just go from there. And that's kind of what I did.
That's awesome. And let's talk about that. What was your way? So real estate, stock picking, day trading. How did you build your wealth throughout first year college and serving in the U.S. Army and then medical school and residency?
Sure. Yeah. So for me, the main thing was real estate. I know you're not a huge fan of real estate.
No. So it's interesting. People get the impression that I'm not a huge fan of real estate, and it's because I'm not a huge fan of real estate. But I understand that like real estate is one of the best wealth building tools out there. I mean, you buy physical property and people pay you money to occupy it, right? Like it is, and it goes up in value and it has all these tax advantages, right? Like I think real estate is an excellent investment for a lot of people. It was just never right for me. And I see a lot of military service members who think it's a hack to building wealth, and they get trapped where they buy too much house, they don't buy the right house, they don't think about how they're going to rent it out after they PCS, or they don't even consider that they're going to PCS in 3 to 4 years. And all of a sudden they're like, I can't sell my house because I'm underwater and I bought it with 0% down with the VA. Can't rent it out because it costs more to service the mortgage than I'm going to collect in rent. So what do I do? I just hate that happens to people. And I want to hear, because real estate can be a way to build wealth if you do it right. And it sounds like that you've kind of taken the do it right approach. So go ahead. Let's talk about real estate investing in the military.
I bought my first property at age 23 here in Hawaii. It was a condo. But really, at that time, it was just a blind decision. I did not know what I was doing, but my thinking was that, okay, I'm young. I don't know what I'm doing, but the only way that I will know what I'm doing is by doing it. So let me just kind of go through with this plan and I will learn by doing it. And if things go wrong, it's okay. I have time to recover. I'd rather learn things now in my young 20s than in my mid 30s when I have a family and a kid to feed. So I bought a condo. It was a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, about 20 minutes away from Schofield Barracks. Pretty much within 3 to 4 months after occupying the property, I rented out the other room to one of my friends. And so immediately that was cash flowing. And then also for a short amount of time, I started renting out the couch to actually an airline pilot. He's also flying for Hawaiian. And essentially he said, I'll only be in Oahu maybe 3 nights a week if I could rent out the couch. I'm like, sure. And at that time, Craigslist was the place to be if you want to get potential tenants. So I was renting out the 1 bedroom, and then I was renting out the couch 3 nights a week. So my mortgage payment and also the HOA and everything all included was $2,400 per month. My BAH back then was $2,850. So even with no tenants in my property, I was still pocketing some BAH. But because I had 2 roommates in a way, I was only paying effectively like $1,000 from my own pocket to live there. So I did that for the 2 years that I was there. And I could have only done that because I was single. So I used the same strategy. After Hawaii, I went to Texas and I bought a townhome there. It was much cheaper in Texas. Same thing. I bought a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, and I rented out the other room to a radiologist tech. Same thing. I only paid half the mortgage and I was pocketing some of the BAH. And every time I would move, I would never sell. I would always rent it out, get a property manager, have the manager so that I'm not getting bogged down with all the phone calls and the emails from the tenants, those kind of stuff. When I moved from Texas to Missouri, did the same thing again. Another condo there and kind of did the same thing. Also, when I was in Hawaii, actually, I also bought a condo in New Jersey. When I was in Hawaii, I was kind of like in my learning phase and I was reading all these books because I was saving so much cash. I had the down payment after about the first year and I started building like a strategy as to how I can make this work for me. And I realized that it's all about the tenants. If you have good tenants, you'll have a good cash flowing property. If you get bad tenant, you'll go into bankruptcy. So I focus on what kind of audience or what kind of tenants I want to attract. I realized that I want my properties to be near universities so that students, especially graduate students, can maybe come to my place as tenants. And that's kind of what I did in New Jersey, be very close to Rutgers. So I kind of use that method. For the first property, I use a VA loan because I didn't have any cash to put down. There were some surprises. For example, the VA origination fee. It's a pretty large sum, which I didn't know about, but I paid out of pocket. So in the beginning, everybody was telling me, oh man, like, I don't know if this is good. Like, you don't have any skin in the game, but I'm so glad I bought that property because that appreciated beautifully. And I used some of that equity to buy other assets that can help out. So that was kind of my real estate story.
And how many properties do you have today?
4.
So the first property, you just kind of, I assume you were just like, man, I've read Tony Robbins, Money Master the Game. I got to go buy some real estate. You just jumped in there, bought it. No real strategy. But by the second and third, you probably were starting to figure out how you wanted to do this. And how much cash had you saved for the down payment for the second or third house?
For the second house in New Jersey, I saved around $70,000 for the second house. Yeah. And then for the third house, when I went to Texas, but because Texas is so much cheaper, I think it only dropped $20,000 with something like that. So much less in Texas.
Yes. I see a lot of people online. They're like, oh, I'm an E4, I'm an E5, I'm in San Diego. I've got $20,000 cash. I want to buy, a duplex or whatever. And it's just like, first of all, you're not making enough money. And second of all, you just don't have enough cash to come into this, even with the VA loan. Because people see, oh, it's 0% down. But like you said, if you're not coming in with a disability rating, you're going to be required to pay the funding fee. There could be additional closing costs as well. So this isn't a game. I would say like real estate is not a game to get into until you have a significant, war chest, a cash buffer that you can you can throw at problems and you can really bring to the table.
Yeah. So around that time, I was actually listening to this YouTube channel called Minority Mindset, and essentially he talks a lot about like personal finance and those kind of stuff. And in one of the episodes, he talks about investing in real estate. He says that you have to be able to afford investing in real estate. And I never understood what he meant by that. But really what he's saying is that you have to have a cash reserve because this is just not investing. This is a business. And in any business, you have to have cash reserve. Otherwise, you'll be in hot waters.
That's a great way to think about it. And that's a great concept that I can start applying when I'm talking to people, because what I love to tell people is like, look, your Roth IRA is so liquid. If you need to, you can pull your contributions out and it'll be in your checking account in 3 days. If you buy a house and you need the cash out of it, you can do that, but it's going to take weeks or months, or you have to sell the place. It's a lot less liquid. And I don't think people recognize that fact that it can be an investment, but I think that's a great mindset. You have to treat it like a business. And there isn't any business out there that doesn't have at least some cash reserves. And if they run out of those cash reserves and their bills start piling up, then they are no longer a business. They are going to go bankrupt and they're going to go out of business.
Agree completely. Yeah, you have to treat it like a business. And just because you're interested in real estate, it doesn't have to be the only thing they invest in. I mean, just like Warren Buffett says, you have to diversify. So do real estate, but you can also do stocks, index fund, mutual funds, Bitcoin if you want. So also invest in other stuff.
How are you thinking about your TSP contributions as you rank up and as your income increases on active duty? Are you a TSP maximizer, or you're probably under high 3, right? Have you stayed under high 3 or did you switch to BRS?
I switched to BRS. I had the opportunity, so I switched. Yeah.
So you're getting your 5% match, and are you maxing the TSP then?
Not every single year. So my strategy is that at the minimum, I want to max my personal Roth IRA, just because I have more control over that in Vanguard. But after that, if I still have any residual cash, then yes, I would like to max my Roth IRA or my TSP. So I've been investing for the last 10 years or so, and only I think 3 years I have not maxed it. So I almost always max my TSP. Yeah,
that's awesome. Any other financial tools, apps, or strategies that have really moved the needle for you or have been game changers?
I'm a pretty simple guy. That's kind of like my strategy. So I just keep an Excel file. I know how much I'm making each month, roughly my expenses, and where all the money is going. So I know that, okay, for real estate, I need to have this much money allocated into this account. For Roth IRA, it will go here. To TSP, it will go here. For cryptocurrency alternatives, it will go here. So it just like Excel file for me. And I just keep some buffer also, just in case I have an expense that I'm not expecting. And I pretty much check that Excel file pretty much weekly, just to make sure that everything is going right. Maybe that's a little bit too much, but that's just kind of like my rhythm now.
I think you might be an optimizer, and that's okay. We definitely have a soft place in our heart for optimizers on this podcast. What's the goal? Do you have a FI number? Do you think you'll ever stop working? Do you want to get 10 doors one time and be able to cash flow your way to retirement? Like, what's your financial goal? Do you have one?
My goal is 5 million. Once I hit 5 million, I will feel financially free. The number 5, one, I love the number 5. 2, I believe Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank, he says that once you hit 5 million, you're very comfortable. And I just feel comfortable just knowing that I have $5 million net worth or cash or whatever have you. So that's my goal right now. 32 right now. I'm hoping to get there by age 40. That's the goal. In terms of working, I don't think I'll ever stop working, but I just want the freedom to decide when and where I want to work, if I want to work, because I know that if I stop working, I'll get bored. So plan it, I'll work forever if I like the work.
I like that attitude. I mean, I think that's the important thing, right? Is what do they say? If you like what you do for work, you'll never work a day in your life.
Exactly.
So, yeah. What's the biggest financial mistake that you've learned from?
Not having cash reserves for real estate. That happened with my Missouri property, and I got, I think, down to the 2 digits. I think to like $80 or something. Yeah, it got really bad because I had an unexpected expense. That was a really scary time, and I learned from mistake and never again.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Have you ever, besides the mortgages, have you ever taken on any debt?
Yes. In the last 10 years or so, I've always played with money. I've moved things from one asset class to another asset class to optimize that, so on and so forth. So to answer your question, yes, I have. Like, for example, let's say when I moved here to Hawaii now, I bought this property with a VA assumption loan, meaning that I just assumed the loan of the current owners. I needed help with a down payment, so I borrowed against my TSP actually. So I took on that debt to put as a down payment. I bought the property, and then over the year, I paid off that debt back to TSP, and I did that. I've also used personal loans in the past to buy assets here and there. During COVID, actually, when the market crashed, at that time, I had a HELOC. I had a teaser rate for about 2 years or so. I think it was like 2% or maybe like 1.5%. It was very low. And, like after that, it kind of jumps up with the prime rate and everything. So I took debt from the HELOC, I think whatever, 20, 30K, and I invested that in the S&P 500. So anyway, it was like arbitrage. I was borrowing at a low interest rate, investing it, and then I was getting like 10% return. So yeah, I've always tried to use debt in a good way to grow that money. But then I would always pay back within like a year max.
You're using the leverage for like a short-term opportunity, but then you're rapidly paying it back off. So you're not holding that debt for long periods of time. Interesting. Yeah. I would say that's much more aggressive than my style of investing. But again, I mean, the proof is in the pudding when you're building, the real estate empire and a high net worth, and you're in a career field that has high income as well. So I don't know if you're familiar with the concept of consumption smoothing, but basically you're just pulling forward some of your income, and that could be risky for some career fields, but for other career fields, you know that you've got a lot of working years ahead of you and a lot of income ahead of you.
There's this one podcast back in the day, no longer here anymore. It's called Morris Invest. I used to listen to it a lot when I was in Hawaii and in Texas. And one of the episodes, he mentions saying that you have many choices and picking the right career is one of them. And he says that if you have a stable career with a stable income and everything, that's like a fixed income bond. You know that every month, every year, you're getting that money no matter what. So you can leverage that to buy into some riskier assets, if you will, because you have this bond that you're going to every single day. So I thought that was a very interesting concept, but it applies in many, many cases.
Yeah, especially in the military, right? Because it's very difficult to be fired in the military. So yeah, treating that income as a bond. And when you retire from the military, Doug Nordman has the concept of, he's been 100% equities in his portfolio for a long time because he treats his military pension as the bond part of his portfolio. So I think that could be a good way to kind of think about it. Or via disability income as well.
Absolutely.
What would you, if you had a chance to talk to a young officer or a young enlisted man or woman, what would be kind of like the 2 or 3 things that you'd want to tell them to get their financial house in order? Like, what's the things that move the needle when you're a young or a new person in the military?
Talk to everybody. Don't be shy. Don't be afraid to ask questions, because when you're a young officer, you're young. So there's a lot of people around that are much older, they have more wisdom. So ask them questions, especially if you see that they know something that you don't know, ask them more about it. And don't think that you're annoying them, because people like to talk, especially on things that they are interested in and the things that they know about. They like to teach. Follow through and get their insights. And second, if you like what you're hearing, then read about it. There's so many books that you can read and just be an expert on that subject. And it's beautiful because like that author wrote everything into this one book that they have gathered over 10 years. And you can just read it in a week and just gain all that knowledge. So talk to everybody and read books. They're the two main advices.
It's amazing how much knowledge and wisdom you can purchase for like $10 on Kindle. And it's also amazing, like all the people that you look up to or that you aspire to be, you know, the Warren Buffetts, the Mr. Wonderfuls, all the intelligent investors and wealthy people that you want to be one day. I guarantee that like 90% of their success came from reading the right book at the right time or just reading in general. I mean, that's like, if you look at like what Warren Buffett does day to day, he just reads all the time and he makes like two investment decisions a year. But those decisions are very important, and he's able to do that because he's just reading all the time. Even like Bill Gates, he does he calls it Think Week, and he just goes off the grid to like a remote cabin for a week, brings a bunch of books, reads a bunch of books, writes down his thoughts, just gives himself like time and space to like decompress and to think big thoughts. But part of that is he brings the books with him because it's like having the smartest, brightest, most intelligent people in the world. They've literally written this and they're handing it to you and they're saying, these are my thoughts. This is what I'm thinking. And it's incredible that we have, you know, this technology is quite old, but it still works, you know, besides all the podcasts, besides the YouTube videos, like actually reading a book. I think there's something different the way it gets downloaded into your brain. But yeah, as an author myself, I'm a huge fan of books and a huge fan of reading. So great tips. Great tips. Thank you for that. Pritish, this has been an awesome episode so far. I want to start wrapping things up and talking about exit strategies. So let's say that you're in military medicine and you're coming up on the end of your required payback, your 4 years as an attending physician. What are the options? Can you stay active duty? Can you go guard reserves? Can you serve 20 years, retire, and then roll into a civilian role? Like, what do people tend to do in military medicine?
Yes, what you said, that's absolutely right. After you're done with your obligation, you can decide to stay in for the 20 years. You can decide to stay in until you're a general and then eventually retire. Or you can just do your initial obligation of 4 years, get out, and you can go to the civilian world and be a doctor. You can also be a doctor in an MTF as a civilian, in a military training facility as a civilian physician, or you can also do that. You can also do a combination of either of those and go into the reserves or National Guard, where essentially just 1 week in a month, you are going to an MTF and you're treating soldiers, sailors, or Marines. You can also do that. So there's many options. If you were to go to National Guard and a reserve, they have their own retention bonuses and incentive pays and those kind of stuff. I know, for example, for Palm Crit doctors, they'll give you an additional, I believe, like $80,000 every year just to drill 1 week in a month and 3 weeks over the summer on top of your salary that you'll get as a physician. So they have their own different bonus structures. And then same thing with retirement. Those years they'll count for retirement. Only thing is that you'll get your, I believe at age 60 or 65 with the reserves National Guard.
Yeah,
right?
Guard Reserve retirements usually start at age 60. There are ways to move that to the left a little bit. But yeah, typically don't count on a Guard Reserve pension until age 60.
Yeah. But the good thing about Guard Reserve is that they will add on the 4 years in medical school to your retirement time. So that's a added benefit there. So those are all of the options. Most people, they do their initial obligation and they leave the military and they join the civilian sector. That's what most people do. A lot of people that end up staying in the military till retirement, a lot of them, they get out from active duty and they join the MTF as a civilian physician, and then they get the civilian pension on top of that. So you can also double dip from DoD and also, just the VA or in general the government, the federal government.
Yeah, as a GS. Yeah.
As a GS, yeah.
Well, great. Pritish, again, this has been awesome. Where can people find you? What are you working on? And what's next for you?
Yeah. So you can find me on my YouTube channel, Pritish Sahoo. I'm not super active on it, but once I get some more free time, I'll definitely like to upload some more videos. Otherwise, you can email me at pritishsahoo50@gmail.com if you have any questions or if you need any clarifications. What I'm working on right now, really just residency, just trying to survive and get through it. Residency is definitely tough. Definitely the hardest thing you've ever done. People say that medical school is tough, but residency is way tougher. So trying to get that done. And then after that, just being an attending and kind of get back to my hobbies while making videos on YouTube and kind of weightlifting and running, those kind of stuff.
That's great. Well, Pritish, again, thanks so much for joining us. A wealth of knowledge, and I hope that maybe we can have you back in a couple of years when you're an attending and you can talk to us about how awesome it is to be done with residency and how much your pay's gone up now that you're attending. So as you approach that $5 million mark at 40, it'd be good to have you back on and talk about what lessons you've learned on the journey.
Awesome. Will do. Thank you, Spencer.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of the Military Money Manual podcast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. This helps others find the show, and we really appreciate it. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
The views and opinions presented here are those of the speakers and do not necessarily represent the views of the DoD or its components. Reference to any commercial products or services does not constitute DoD endorsement of those products or services.